All right. Um, Hi, everybody. Sorry for the bad head. Uh, I was laying in bed. Actually, I've been laying in bed since yesterday. God has been having me rest. And in the rest, He's been moving. Let me tell you. So, I know the last video I made, I talked about a situation at work that was created. Sorry, my glasses are lopsided. By my spouse, at the leading of God. Now, had I not had discernment, had I not had the ability to understand with wisdom how God was moving in this moment, I would have quit, I would have run out the door, and I would have never looked back. It was that bad. And I'm looking at him and I'm going like, why would you do this to me? And so God brought it all back. I don't know if I said this in my last video, but I think I did, where I said that I was the ram in the bush, that my husband served me up as a sacrifice instead of himself because he was willing to quit. He was ready to give up his. We talk a lot before this happened, and he told me that he had always wanted to be a delivery driver, like that was his goal in life. And I was like, that is so cool. And he just looked at me like, everybody I've ever told that to, they're like, seriously, this is the highest you've ever wanted to go? Like, don't you have bigger ambitions? Don't you want to be more? And I told him my story. I said, when I was 8 years old, I said, my parents had moved us here. Or I was 7 when they moved us here. I said, my aunt brought me to Peter Piper Pizza as a as she brought the family as a celebration of us coming together. I used to see her to hear people because I was 7 and I turned 8 in Arizona, where I'm at now. It was 7 years ago that I had divorced my ex-husband. This is my 8th year of being divorced. Just saying. Look beyond. So I told him excitedly, I said, when I was 7 years old, my aunt took us to Peter Piper Pizza when we moved to Arizona. And I said, and I don't know where I was going. I don't know what I was going to do. But I stood right at the cash register where you could see all the way down the kitchen. And I said, and I looked at the kitchen and I said, I'm going to work here one day. And I said, when I was 17 years old, I started my first job at Peter Piper Pizza. I was bussing dishes, washing dishes, but eventually I got to be in the kitchen. And from there, I flourished. And I loved every minute of it. I worked there for 6 years. I worked there for 3 years. Then I got robbed. Then I took a time off for 3 years. And then I came back 3 years later. And I became a GM. Eyes to see, ears to hear. Okay? So I'm telling him this, and he looks at me, and I said, you know what is so cool? I said, you and we've already achieved everything we've ever wanted to do in our lives. I was like, when I became an employee, when I became a GM that I remembered about the dream, the thought I had when I was 7 years old, and I was like, I've achieved my life goals. Like, all I ever wanted to do was work for Peter Piper Pizza. I've been here. I've done it. I'm like, okay, so what else is next? So I've been talking to him about all my different dreams, all the things that God has been putting in my heart. I wanted to be an archaeologist. I want to be a Scientologist, not a Scientologist, a chemical engineer. I wanted to be an astrology, an astronomy major. I wanted to build rockets. I had a lot of dreams, a lot of dreams. But a lot of them were just dreams. It was God teaching me how to dream, how to increase into the next season. If you don't have dreams, if you don't have a vision of where you want to go, well, how are you going to keep moving forward? You're going to see the obstacles and you're going to get stuck. You're going to be like, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. You can't pivot when God tells you to pivot. You can't move into and transition into the things that He has for you because you don't know where you're going to go because you don't have any dreams. You don't have any faith. You don't have any hope. You're just stuck. And so I told him, I said, because I told him about my dream to always want to go to Europe, to backpack through Europe. And he was sad because he goes, you don't need anybody to go with you. You can go by yourself. I said, but Ben, I said, some of these are just dreams. They're never going to come to fruition. But that doesn't mean I can't dream. That doesn't mean I can't hope that one day, and who knows, maybe I'll get surprised and I'll get to backpack through Europe. But that's not, the goal isn't that. It's just a dream, a pipe dream that might come to fruition one day. And he just looked at me like, what? And we've had conversations throughout the whole time. And we've had moments where we've had to be apart from each other. One was because of me. I ran away. I was like, these feelings are not, no. Because remember, I thought someone else was supposed to be my husband. But God was using that man to remove all of the hurt because I felt safe. I felt safe. And because I didn't look at Ben as my husband, I let him in. I'm like, hey, we're buddies, we're pals, we're friends. And he's enjoying the attention. He's enjoying being in my company because I'm not hiding who I am. I'm showing him everything, like my quirky side, my weird side, my funny side, my everything. Like there's nothing I'm keeping away from him. And when God finally revealed that this was my actual husband, I was like, oh my God, I have been acting like a total fool in front of him. And he goes, that's exactly why I didn't let you know. Because you were being natural. You were being yourself. You weren't pretending to be someone you're not. He would have seen right through all that and he would have completely closed the door on you. And he said, I needed him to see the real you, the true you, the person I created you to be. And I was like, but could you have at least cut back a little bit on the funny stuff and the weirdness? And and he goes, no. And I was like, I am so embarrassed. And I did. I became a little shy and a little weird. And he's like looking at me like, what's wrong with you? This isn't the you that I know. So he started making fun of me because I was being this person that he didn't recognize. And he started making me laugh. And of course, that brought me back out. And then I made him uncomfortable because I started sharing personal things. Because when you're intimate with someone, you start sharing your personal life. And that made him uncomfortable. Because every time he's ever shared something personal, people attack him or people tell him, oh, you're not this. Oh, you're so dumb. Oh, you're so this. And he's noticed that when I hear the things that he does personally or the things that the way he is as a person, I'm like, that's amazing. Like, that's awesome. I don't critique him. I don't cut him down. I don't put him down. I actually elevate him. I'm like, oh, wow, I never thought about doing it like that. Or if I bring him something and he goes, no, I don't like that. I'm like, really? You don't like it? Okay. And he's like, you didn't belittle me. You didn't call me weird. You didn't be like mad because, oh, what? You're too good for this. I'm like, who doesn't like it? No, I never do any of that to him. And I don't do that to anyone. If someone says, oh, no, thank you, I don't like it. I'm like, okay, more for me. But if they partake of what I'm offering, then God bless them because they are taking from God. So over the year and a half that we've known each other, I have been feeding him and I didn't even know it. I didn't know the things that triggered him. I didn't know the things that caused him to pull back. In fact, one day I came in, and this was a while ago. This was probably last year sometime. I came in, and I was standing there looking at him work. And he looks at me, and he goes, what's wrong? And I said, I just had a near-death experience yesterday. I said, I was walking across the street, and this car came around the corner like a bat out of hell. I said, he was doing the skidding, what is it called? It's a movie, it's a video game, drift. He was drifting, but he lost control. So as I was walking, I remember I saw the car pass me here on my left side. the tail end of the car, passed me on my left side. Mere inches, mere inches. I felt the breeze from the car. And then, because he overcorrected, he fishtailed towards me again. And I saw him just barely miss my hip. And he overcorrected and almost went into the curb, and overcorrected and almost went into the standing traffic that was waiting for the light. And then he took off. And I looked at Ben and I said, I realized that if I died in that moment, I said, because that impact would have hit me, and I would have hit every car that, and I would have been dead. Then nobody would even know about it. No one would even know that I was gone. They would just think that I just didn't show up for work. No one knows where I live. I said, yeah, you have my phone number, but you don't know where I live. And he looks at me and he goes, I was thinking the same thing yesterday. And I was like, what? Because this is where God brought me. Sorry, guys, my glasses are just cuckoo. So this is where God brought me. He goes, didn't he say I was a girlfriend? I'm like, yeah. So how would someone not find him? She lives with him. I'm like, oh, yeah. That's when God started to reveal to me, look, because that was the reason we stopped talking the second time. Because he told me he had a girlfriend and he was in love with her, and he didn't feel comfortable with the way that we were being with each other. And I was like, so I talked to God. I was like, God, why would he talk to me? Why would he have these friendly conversations with me, these in-depth conversations with me if he has a girlfriend? And he goes, no, he got scared because you're touching things. You're touching areas of his heart that he's hardened because he's been hurt before. He feels safe in the amount of contact that the two of you have, but he's not with her anymore. He hasn't been with her since you started working for this store. And I was like, why? Because he knew he couldn't be faithful in his heart for her. Because that's what he told me. He goes, I'm not the kind of man to talk to another woman while I'm in a relationship. So I was like, okay, that kind of doesn't make sense, but okay. Because you've been talking to me, you've been making eyes at me. Like, I'm not crazy. God is highlighting this stuff. Like, normally I would be completely oblivious. I would not know. Unless this man said something straight up to me, I would not know. And then he told me that he's not comfortable sharing personal information because he's in this relationship. So I went 2 weeks. No talk. God says, don't talk to him. Don't even say hi. Just walk right past him. Act like he's not even there. And I was helping the GM do he asked me to grab something for him, and I did. And I grabbed it and I put it over in another area. And I'm like, I don't know where this goes. I'm like, well, where do I put it? And he goes, when I went to set it down, I'm like, because I'm like, I don't know where it goes, so I'm just going to put it here. He goes, it doesn't go there. And I looked at him because I was being completely innocent, completely work-related. And I looked at him and I said, where does it go? And he goes, I don't know, but it doesn't go there. And all of a sudden, he could not keep his face straight. He started laughing. And I looked at him and I said, I can't. Not with you, Ben. So he knew I had feelings for him. He knew that I was already past the friendship stage. So then God said, okay, now start talking to him. I'm like, okay, but do I have to? Like, I don't want to because it makes me feel stupid. And God's like, I'm like, okay. So I just got out of bed and my hair's like frizzy and crazy looking. So I started talking to him again, and I noticed that he started getting closer to me. Like, he would stare in my eyes more. He would just look at me more. And I was being shy a little bit, and then God was like, why are you being shy? What did I say? I'm like, oh yeah, don't fumble. Don't fumble the ball. You've been this course before. Just be yourself. I'm like, okay. So I started being myself again, and then him and I got closer and closer. And meanwhile, the GM is watching all of this. And I had no idea I was going to go here because the GM's been watching. And I've been telling Ben that the GM he makes me feel uncomfortable. I said, he creeps me out. And so God showed Ben to do this thing that was going to make me look bad, but it did something. This GM thought that he could put the fear in me, and I did talk about this, but not just the fear in me. He thought he could control my heart according to his will. And what God has been doing, and I didn't know this is how he was going to do it. Like, we think it's going to go one way and then it goes a different way. And I was like, huh? But you're making me look so bad. Like, I don't want to look bad. And we don't want to look bad. But that's what he told us. Keep my scriptures in your heart, because when things get hard, I will bring those scriptures up for you. When this was getting hard, and I was thinking about saving myself, this is the scripture that came up. For he who saves his life will lose it, and he who loses his life for my sake will save it. So I'm sitting there across this man who's telling me, basically, you need to stop obsessing over this other guy because he doesn't want you. He's already told you he's not interested. He's already told you he's uncomfortable. He's already told you all this. And then he says, and he showed me screenshots of the text messages. He only showed him one screenshot. And I was like, when God asked me to send him that, I'm like, why? And he goes, just do it. I'm like, no. And I said, fine. So I sent Ben a text saying that sometimes when I see his jacket sitting there, then I want to grab it and I want to sniff it. Okay, when you're in a relationship, you do things like that. You grab people's clothes and you're like, because you want their scent and you want to smell them. And we've been in a relationship. As much as we don't go out, we don't hang out outside of work, but the relationship has been built. And that's because it's a friendship that's going to lead into something more. He used to help me around the store. Now, because of the situation that has occurred, now I'm not allowed to talk to him. Now I'm doing things on my own and he doesn't like it. I can see it because when I'm doing things that he knows I'm going to need help with, he will try to figure out how to be in the position to be my helper. But I won't ask him for help. I have asked him for help recently because God has been leading me to. Because now he's leading us in secret together. Remember, there's a time where he wants us to hide our relationship, where he doesn't want people to know what's going on. He was using all of these distractions around us, these men that are coming up to me and asking me for dates and telling me that I look hot, to call them and leaving me their numbers, leaving me their information. And I'm just like, no. Because he's showing God, look, she's reserved herself for you. She's not looking for anyone else but you. But now there's going to be a wrench in the mix. God is going to bring back someone from my past, someone that I was really interested in having a relationship with. But there we go. Okay. God has been showing me through doppelgangers, people who look similar to this man, that my heart has no feelings for him. That yes, I was infatuated. Yes, I was looking for something with him. But I never wanted, it was never, like I never truly opened my heart to him. Because I knew he wasn't the one. Like my soul knew he wasn't the one. And so with Ben, it's completely different. Like I'm open with him. He hurts me and I still show him my heart. And he just looks at me like, How are you so brave? And I realized recently why God has been doing it this way. Because he has me be vulnerable with him. He has me tell him you're scared. Tell him that you're not scared of man. You're not scared of the people around you. You're not scared of being fired. You're not scared of your home being taken away. What you're afraid of is not being obedient to me. Is not following my decrees, not following my orders. And I said, that scares me. I don't care about the world. I care about God. If I'm not obeying God, then I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. That scares me, because then I'm not in alignment with God. Then I'm not with God. And if you're not with God, you're against God. And so, okay. That one, okay, I think is, okay. Oh, I did talk about this dream. Okay, so, all right. Okay, this is where it starts. Okay. Sorry, I was just looking for the page where I started writing the other sets of dreams. And I had one last night, and I'm praying God will bring it back to my memory. So, as a remember the dream I had about this monster being outside, a dinosaur. Ben had a dream that he was fighting his brother, and they were dressed as dinosaurs. And I told him, that's not your brother. That's someone who you think of as a brother, but he's not really a friend to you. So by doing this, by making this action, he was able to look and watch how this GM is around me. And he did. He punished me for wanting to be with Ben. On Monday, I was supposed to have a counter, a second person that would be helping me. That lady didn't show up. And I was like, okay, so I'm by myself. And it was a holiday. It was Martin Luther King Day. So we were busy. And I was by myself, and I was running the front by myself. And I had to clean tables, and I had to do it all by myself, answer phones, do it all. Because it was just three of us. It was Cody, his brother-in-law, Joseph, and me. And so each one of us had our position to run. And there was no overlap because we were that busy. So every once in a while, Cody would have a spot of time, and he would help me. But for the most part, I had to do it on my own. And I knew, because God told me, you're being punished. For what? And he goes, because you didn't choose him. So he's going to punish you until you choose him. And I'm like, but I'm never going to choose him because you haven't chosen him for me. And he goes, he's going to learn the hard way. And so on Tuesday, this woman didn't show up again. And I was by myself. And we were busier than we were on Monday. And I ran it by myself. The GM did not come out and help me. And God had me tell all of this to Ben. And he just looked at Will. And he's been watching him. When Ben is in the store, he is constantly around me like a whirlwind. Watching me like a hawk. Like, you're not a hawk. You're a crow. A hawk will let a crow pick at it. And that hawk will fly high up in the air until the crow passes out from lack of oxygen and falls to the ground to his death. And then the hawk will drop down. I shared a video about a hawk destroying a pigeon. God brought those... I had learned this about hawks a long time ago. I overheard the GM in those few days after I got into trouble talking to the managers of the property that we're in. And she mentioned about the hawk. And he goes, oh yeah, I knew that there was a what did he call it? The people that man it, like train the hawks. There's a word for it, and I can't remember the word. Anyway, and he was telling her that, yeah, he saw the hawk killing the pigeons. And he goes, although I don't know if a hawk will go after a crow. And I was like, oh yeah, they'll go after a crow, but the crow fights back. So they have to be very, very careful. Otherwise they could lose their life in the battle. That's why hawks are very strategic in how they attack certain animals, certain small birds. So the hawk will go up in the sky till the crow passes out, and then he'll come down and swoop it and eat it. So God is going to take Will high up in the air, and then he's going to let him fall because he passed out. And when he lands on the ground, the crows are going to feed on, the hawks are going to feed on him. Remember, God bringing the vultures? Yeah. Not me. Okay, so Ben has been watching this, and I've been watching him like, why are you watching the cameras all the time? It's because he's watching Will, watching what he's doing, where he's going. And God has slowly been allowing me to speak to Ben when Will's not around. I'll make small comments. Not like before, but he's trying to show him, she's not mad at you. She's not upset with you. She understands. Because I did tell Ben that I am now being led by him, and I am going to follow his lead. And he has spoken to me since that day that I got in trouble. But I just looked at him, and he realized, oh, it's too soon. Okay. So now God is prompting me because he's asking God, can you have her talk to me? If I talk to her, she kind of just stares at me like frozen in a deer in headlights. And so I've now started to talk to him. And now he's like, okay. Because he understands that I follow him, but God's saying, you need to follow him. But I'm like, but he hurt me. Can you lead me for a little bit so that it doesn't hurt? Because I want to trust him. But he broke my trust when he told on me. And God is saying, but he did it according to my will. And I said, okay. And I have asked God, don't let my heart get hardened against him. Don't let my heart, if this is your will for my life, if this is your plan for me, if this doesn't make sense to anybody else but you, don't let my heart get hardened. Don't let me walk away from him. Don't let me hurt him because I don't understand what you're doing. And so my heart has not been hardened against him. My heart has not closed itself off from him because God is teaching both of us. God is teaching him how to be my protector and how to be my leader and how to lead me according to God's will. And he's teaching me how to follow a man and know the difference between someone who is following God and someone who is following his own heart and his own will. And so Will is trying to force me to follow him, to look to him, to see him as my savior. And I'm like, you're not my God. You'll never be my God. And so there's a situation that occurred on Saturday with boys. And when I got in on Monday, Cody and I, we talk when Will's not around. So he gave me the lowdown of everything that happened. And I looked at Cody and I said, well, I'm glad you didn't answer the phone because this has nothing to do with you and everything to do with Will. And Cody just looked at me like, that's an odd thing to say. So Will wasn't telling anyone what happened. And Will instructed Cody, no one hears what happened on Saturday. This is between us managers. And he's like, okay. So employees started asking, why so many employees got fired? And everybody was like, the managers were all, nobody was saying anything. Just let's say that they weren't doing their job, so they got fired. But on Tuesday, because I was by myself, these boys walked in. And I looked at Will and I said, should these boys be in the store? Because God had already shown me that something was going to happen. And Will's like, yeah, so as of right now, they're just customers. I'm like, okay. I went back to doing what I was doing. Next thing I know, this little boy Ace walks around the corner, clocks in, walks around the corner, and I could see the fear. And he was just standing there, like a mouse, waiting to be pounced on by the cat. And I knew what Will had done. And I knew why these boys were frazzled. And finally, he mustered up the courage, like I could see him. And he walked into the kitchen and he goes, Will, what does it mean when my name is scratched out? And he goes, it means you don't have a job anymore, buddy. It means you don't work here anymore. You don't have to worry about coming into work. And he goes, you're done. And he goes, I'm sorry, Will. But the way he said it, so sadly, so quiet, I know, because I've seen him, the way he was with Joey, the way he was with the other boys, the way that he was with Carla. And I'm like, you did something to this boy. And God is going to hunt you down. And he's going to bury you alive. Because this is, you see, these 3 boys are Jewish by birth. Ace, Mateen, Isaiah, these are all Jewish boys. And they all love each other like brothers. They're not brothers for real. They're friends. But they grew up together. Because in the Jewish community, the families get together and they raise their children together. So they become friends. They become family. They're not just their neighbor. This is part of their community, part of their family. And there's a deeper love than just friendship. And this boy, being the youngest of the group, the smallest of the group, told these boys what happened to him. And they became angry. I could sense the anger in the air, the bitterness that they were starting to feel for this against Will. The phone calls, those were all telling Will, you're a piece of poop. And they cussed at him and they berated him. So Will fired them instantly. But, so I asked Will about these boys being in the store. And he said, as far as I'm concerned, they're customers now. I'm like, okay. These boys leave. And a few minutes later, the back door is open. And I hear, F you, Will.